Hi, okay, so these are all of my top 10 books of 2023. Jeez, I cannot get the year correct. I read 127 books this year, and I had like 40 plus 5 stars because I rate books 5 stars based off the vibe, not based on whether they were objectively good or not. But out of those like 44 or whatever 5-star books, these are the top 10, so the best of the best. Also, I know I have not posted a long form YouTube video in like a year, which is not great for me, but I'm trying to get back into posting regularly on YouTube for 2024. Moving forward, let's get into the books. And there's gonna be a lot of book content this year. Also, a lot of these are adult books, so check the content and age warnings always. First up is Mother of Death and Dawn by Carissa Broadbent. I absolutely love this book. It is the 3rd book in the War of Lost Hearts trilogy, which is one of the fantasy trilogies that is always top of mind when I recommend fantasy books to people. And what I like about this trilogy is each subsequent book in the series gets better and better. So it's not like some trilogies where the first book like peaked and then the other books declined on terms of whether it was good or not. This series is an epic fantasy. It reminds me a lot of Throne of Glass, not necessarily in terms of plot. It's like the plot is not similar at all to Throne of Glass, but in terms of that really in-depth world building and relationship development and lots of stuff happening in the world, lots of big kingdom worldwide events and wars and politics and everything, and it's just so romantic. My memory is a little bit hazy of the trilogy and the exact plot points because this was like the 2nd book that I read in 2023. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, which we always love. So the main character, Tisana, which I absolutely love that name. I think it's so pretty, but that's not at all the point of the book. But Tisana, she has been enslaved her whole life working for this really horrible person, and it reminds me a lot of Would've, Could've, Should've by Taylor Swift, especially the line, "Give me back my girlhood, it was mine first." So throughout her life, she's saving up the money that she can to escape from essentially her captor. She barely escapes, but then she's able to enter the Orders, which is this magic wielding society, and there is a developing war which the Orders are participants in. But to become a full-fledged member of the Orders, she has to complete an apprenticeship with the, you know, reclusive, older but not like too old, like he's probably like 4 or 5 years older than she is, ex-warrior. And he owns this cute little cottage, and he also has a garden, which I think is so much fun. But he reluctantly teaches her everything she needs to know about magic, and there's this developing war throughout the whole trilogy. And Max and Tisana's relationship at the beginning of the series is very similar to Rowan and Aylin's at the beginning of Heir of Fire. And finally, even though I could rant for hours about this series, it is definitely leaning more towards fantasy than romance. And while there is romance, that's not the main intention of the book. I always say this, you know, Sarah J Maas's Throne of Glass and ACOTAR. Carissa Broadbent's Throne of Glass is the War of Lost Hearts trilogy, and Carissa Broadbent's ACOTAR is the Serpent and the Wings of Nights duology. Next up is Fourth Wing, probably like every other reading recap that you've seen. And also what's crazy is my Barnes & Noble put it out like mid-April, and it didn't come out until later, so I finished the book before it was even released, which is kind of interesting. So I feel like a little bit cool that I read it before it was actually published, even though I did not receive an art copy of it. I think Fourth Wing is the perfect romantic fantasy book for readers who want to get into fantasy. If all you've been doing is reading contemporary fiction and you want to explore fantasy, you want to explore science fiction, start with Fourth Wing. It gives you a great introduction to the genre. I think with the modern vernacular, it makes it a lot more comprehensible and digestible than a lot of other heavy-duty epic fantasy books are. And also Zayden Ryerson, you know, we love him. I'm just thinking, like, should I describe the plot of this book? Okay, yeah, we're gonna describe the plot of this book. Violet Sorrengail, while she is a true academic, introverted, nerdy girl at heart who wants to become a scribe, who are the people in the kingdom that study history and everything, she wants to do that, but instead her mom, the general of the kingdom or whatever, forces her into entering the Riders Quadrant, which is basically the Air Force of the kingdom, but instead of, you know, planes, it's dragons. And the Riders Quadrant is like the most elite faction of the military. And while Violet is extremely intelligent, she doesn't have the physical strength that a lot of other cadets do have in this quadrant, but she makes it work. So the first book, Fourth Wing, focuses on her journey through her first year at this war college, Basgaia. And also Iron Flame, the sequel, I read that in like 2 days once it came out, because I don't have a social life. Next up is Happy Place. I love, love, love this book so much. I am probably gonna get roasted in the comments, but I did not like Book Lovers that much at all. So I was like kind of on the fence about reading more of Emily Henry's books, but Happy Place like sealed the deal. I love this book. It reminds me so much of the Lover album. Like the happy songs, the sad songs, the anxiety songs. Literally the Lover album is Happy Place, especially The Archer. Each summer, this friend group who's been friends since college, they go to a cottage in Maine. Every summer, it's their tradition, it's their happy place, and there's 3 couples in the friend group, but the main characters, Harriet and Wynne, they broke up 6 months prior to this vacation, and they haven't told any of their friends, so they have to pretend like they're still dating each other for the sake of their friends and this fact that this is their last time that they can be together in this cottage. I love this book because it flashes back between the past and the present, and I love when books do that. So the present is them at the cottage this final year, and the past is them meeting in college and their development of their friendships and relationships throughout up until present time. I love when books do that. I think it really gets you connected with the backstory of the characters. I think the reason why most people say this is their least favorite Emily Henry book is because it's not as lighthearted as her other books. This is definitely more raw and emotional than like People We Meet on Vacation, for example. It's a little bit more nitty-gritty, and that's not to say that it's not happy, but the title Happy Place insinuates that it's gonna be a fun and silly rom-com when it's not exactly super silly. It's a little more serious, but still love it. Or maybe I just like sad girl books. I don't know. Next is A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halle. I loved reading this book. I just flew through it. This is definitely a dark romantic fantasy. It's definitely 18 plus, so you know, be careful. Anyway, it's a loose retelling of The Little Mermaid. The main character, Marin, so this kind of happens off page in a way, so she sells her soul, or not her soul, her voice to Ursula, or their version of Ursula, so then she can become a human on land with Prince Eric. But it turns out Prince Eric is an asshole, so she's stuck with him in this abusive relationship for a decade until the opportunity comes where she can't escape. So she and Prince Eric, they're on some sort of, I almost said a cruise. They're not on a cruise. They're on like some sort of ship when pirates board the ship and they take Marin captive. But Marin is just glad to be out of the hands of Prince Eric and in the hands of Captain Ramsay. And it turns out both the captain and Marin have a score to settle with Ursula the Sea Witch. And I feel like in a lot of these dark romantic fantasy retellings, there's not really a plot, but there's actually a plot in this book, which we love. Totally switching gears here, so we had all the fantasy books and now Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. Normally I would hate the accidental pregnancy trope, but this book completely changed my mind on it. And this book has disability representation almost at the forefront of the book, which is amazing. So Wynne and Beau meet at a mutual friend's Halloween party. They have a one-night stand which ends up in an accidental pregnancy, but they make it work. So this book shows their relationship developing first as friends and then into a romantic relationship while navigating the waters of their pregnancy journey. And it's just so sweet and romantic, and it's like humorous without being too cheesy, because there's a fine line between humorous and cheesy. And Beau, who's the guy, he's like a golden retriever, but I feel like a lot of the times authors are like, oh, the main character is a golden retriever, but then it's like they become a caricature of the golden retriever boy trope. But Beau's personality, he has a personality besides being a golden retriever, you know? Not that I should be like saying men are golden retrievers, but whatever. And they had healthy communication. There was no third act breakout. Next up is Thief of Silver and Souls. I actually received an art copy of this book, which I loved everything about it. We're going back to fantasy. So this is the first book in a fantasy trilogy. I think it's a trilogy, but the last book comes out I think in March, so we're fine. But the other book I still have at my college apartment. I'm home right now for break. But this is what the second book looks like. I would definitely recommend getting these in paperback because look at this sprayed-ish edge and like illustrations. We love that. But this is the second book. But anyway, what I loved about this book is you take the modern vernacular and the college aesthetic of Fourth Wing, plus the intricate plot of Throne of Glass, plus the scheming of Six of Crows, and you get a thief of silver and souls. The main character Ivy is similar to Robin Hood in a way, where she steals from the rich and gives back to the poor. She's very Inej Galfa energy and we love that for her. But Ivy is quickly roped into a much thicker plot. She witnesses a noble woman getting murdered, and instead of the noble woman, Julieta, I think that's her name, what's her name? Julita. She notices Julita getting murdered, and then Julita, instead of her soul going off to the afterlife, her soul gets stuck in Ivy's head. And Ivy's like, what is this? And then Julita tells Ivy about this mysterious plot that's threatening the kingdom that's starting at the college of the city. And she's like, Ivy, you have to finish up uncovering what I was trying to uncover along with my four male friends. It's a why choose book. So Ivy plus the four men who are students, scholars, and one's like the war class leader, I guess. They continue Julita's work and hunt down the mystery at the kingdom's underbelly. I just love the plot and I love the mystery elements of this book. All of the characters were great. It feels very dark academia. I just love books that take place mainly at magical colleges. Then 2 of Sophie Lark's books made it onto this list. I read like 12 or 13 Sophie Lark books this year and I love her books. They are dark romance, but they're just addicting. I don't know what it is about them. First up is Bloody Heart, which is part of the Brutal Prince series. I don't even know if that's what the series is called, but it's the 4th book in the Brutal Prince series. So this series, it takes place in Chicago, and they're all dark romances that focus on a different couple from these mafia families. And there's 2 main families in these books. There's the Italian mafia and the Irish mafia, and each book is about different characters in these families. So this book is about the oldest Gallo brother, Dante, and Simone, who's not at all involved in these crimes or anything. She is like the daughter of a politician and a socialite, while Dante is like the heir to his family's fortune and everything. The first like third of this book takes place like 9 years ago, where Dante and Simone meet for the first time, and they quickly engage in a little fun affair because Dante jumps into Simone's limousine and uses their limousine as a getaway car and doesn't realize Simone is in there. So they quickly have this romantic affair, and then it comes crashing down within like a month or 2. They don't talk to each other for almost a decade, and then they see each other again and start up a relationship. It's very, very Dorothea coded by Taylor Swift, because in between this decade where they're not talking to each other, Simone becomes like this world famous model, and Dante is haunted by her because Simone's in all of these ads and billboards and everything. It reminds me so much of the lyric, "You're a queen selling dreams, selling makeup and magazines, and it's never too late to come back to my side." You know, that's just why I love it. I was sobbing at the end of it. And then the next Sophie Lark book is The Bully. So this is the 3rd book in Sophie Lark's Kingmaker series, and the Kingmaker series is the next generation series to the series I was talking about before. So the Kingmaker series features all of the kids of the parents that were the main characters in the Brutal Prince series, and I love 2nd generation series, but the Kingmaker series takes place at this mafia college in like the Mediterranean Sea. So this book, it's a little bit hard to explain without spoiling literally 8 books, but the main guy, Dean, who is the Archer by Taylor Swift, he sees the main woman, Kat, he sees her commit a crime, and then he starts to kind of blackmail her. And you kind of have to read the entire series in order for this book to make sense, but I would totally recommend reading the entire series. Such a guilty pleasure. And all the books have illustrations in them. And then we have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I regret not reading this book earlier. It was so good. So the main character, Bree, she moves to the small town in Maine to escape her past, pretty much. We love small town romances. And Bree comes across Archer, who is like the town outcast, but she befriends him, and she quickly learns that he was in an accident as a child and his voice box was damaged, so he can't speak. So no one is like willing to get to know him because he can't speak, except for Bree, who knows sign language. So they slowly begin to develop a friendship, which turns into a relationship, and they open up to each other about their past and their trauma. It's just so romantic and emotional. Like I was like crying again because it was so good. I cannot recommend this book more. Also, one of Archer's family members is named Travis, and I kind of had a hard time picturing anyone other than Travis Kelce, but yeah. And finally, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. This duology, so good. This is another romantic fantasy recommendation. Again, the romance is not at the forefront of this book. I loved this book. I could not recommend it more. The magic system is so intricate. So there's essentially two ways that you can have magic. One is to pick up this infection and you get really unstable magic if you get the infection, and you're basically executed if you get the infection. So you don't want to get the infection because this infection is spreading throughout the Kingdom of Blunder. And the Kingdom of Blunder is essentially isolated from all the other kingdoms because there is this forest that's covered in this poisonous and dangerous mist. It's becoming a huge problem, both the infection and the mist, for the welfare of the kingdom. And the other way that you can get magic are through these Providence cards, which are very similar to tarot cards. So these cards are very powerful and they're traded around the kingdom, and each card has different magical powers. For example, the Maiden card enhances your beauty, and the Scythe card allows you to mind control other people. And the only way to lift the mist and the curse of the mist from the kingdom is to unite the entire deck of Providence cards, which is the goal for pretty much everyone. The main character, Elspeth, she suffers from the infection, and her magic from the infection is that she can absorb the power of any card. So as a child, she accidentally touched the Nightmare card, which allows you to speak into others' minds. So when she touched that card as a little girl, she got a monster stuck in her head pretty much, and she's just living her life until she gets attacked by two highwaymen on the road, and they rope her into this plot to unite all of the cards. So good. I read these in like 2 days because I could not put them down. Could not recommend more. So those are all the no, those are not all the books that I read in 2024. So those are my top 10 books of 2023. I keep almost saying 2024. No, we have not gotten to the end of 2024 yet. It was a very good reading year, but thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate it so much. I really hope you liked it. Comment down below what your favorite book was of 2023, or even just some of your favorite books of 2023, because I love reading, clearly. But thanks again for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. It's Susan Carolyn. Also, my Goodreads is Susan Carolyn too, if you want my chaotic reviews constantly. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!